Have you ever watched a video of someone just trying to teach people how to braid their hair, and then you go to leave a comment and say, hey, this was really helpful, thank you, I really love the way my braids turned out, and you see that the top comment is, what if I'm bald? I don't know if this is just my online experience or this is something that's actually become more frequent recently. I feel like in the past weeks, months, years, you can't watch one video or see one post without there being some sort of comment like, but what about me? Someone's posted a bunch of cute photos of their wedding day and the comments are, sounds like an amazing day to jump in front of a train. Why do you feel the need to put that information out there? What made you think that, yeah, this will be a very good addition to the conversation? This is definitely something that the poster really wants to read. I mean, I know the reason why. I know the answer to that question. At first, it was this type of dark humor. Someone would post a story like, don't forget to tell your dad Happy Father's Day. And you would reply with, I don't have that. And that was this mild, evening level, dark kind of humor. I don't know if people who don't understand irony and sarcasm caught up to it, or if we just completely lost our understanding of irony and sarcasm, and instead of it being this entry-level dark comedy, it turned into this serious thing that people were actually offended by when it wasn't about them, and it became main character syndrome plus chronically online brain rot. A concerning amount of people are convinced that they're the main character, and an unfortunate amount of people really want to be the main character or think that they should be the main character so that they can be important or happy or worth something. I get where that desire comes from, that desire to feel like, oh, you're important. And you're not just important, you're the most important thing. But listen, man, think about your favorite shows and movies and video games and books. In how many of those was your favorite character the main character? Maybe this is just me, but the only time that I can remember that my favorite character from something was the main character was Arthur Morgan from Red Dead Redemption 2. And even then, Arthur is basically the side character to everybody else. I think in a lot of times when we say that we want to be the main character, what we actually mean is that we want our life to be important. We want what we do to be important, and we want it to get to somewhere. We want to become something. We want to be something. We want to be important and valid and all of those buzzwords. But we forget that a side character can be all of those things too. And then we forget that this is not a movie, that this is not a script written for us. This is like actual life. And looking at yourself and people around you as characters who are either the protagonists or antagonists or the side characters can lead you to having a warped worldview and set you up for failure and disappointment, because that's just not how the world works. You know, there's no such thing as a Chekhov's? You know, there's no such thing as a Chekhov's gun in real life. There could be situations where that thing happens, but that's not like an actual thing that usually happens in life. There aren't obvious setups and payoffs in real life. You shouldn't think of your life as chapters, because unlike a book, you can never really tell when one chapter ends and another one begins. If you were to write a story based exactly off of how things go and what things happen in real life, you would have a poorly written story. It would be unsatisfying. And not a lot of people would enjoy it, because no matter how lifelike some characters might feel to you, how well written they are and how three-dimensional they are, at the end of the day, they aren't three-dimensional and they aren't alive, and their stories is not real life. It's hard to process your own life as this constant, unbroken line in first person, when the only way you have for digesting things is in parts and through the third person. I don't know if I'm making sense right now or not. No one's ever taught us to exist uninterrupted. All we've learned how to do is experience ourselves in parts and scenes and acts and chapters. And when we're faced with the reality that life just doesn't work that way, you can't just have a cooking montage and eat food and then suddenly be out with your friends. There's this 4-hour long space in between that you need to feel with something. The dishes aren't just gonna be washed. When you have this terrible argument with someone in the middle of a public place, it's not just gonna be over with the last scream. You're still gonna have to leave that park and then walk back home and walk up the stairs and open the door and then sit in silence with yourself and wonder, what the fuck am I gonna do? For me, this is why sometimes I spend so much time on my phone, because I don't know how I'm supposed to fill out the spaces in between. I did this thing, now I have to do this other thing, but there's this 40-minute space between them. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna just exist during that time? I can't do that. So I guess I'm just gonna watch YouTube shorts because I refuse to install TikTok. It's hard to exist in a world you're never thought to live in, because no matter how involved your parents are, you're never gonna see the world through their eyes, and you have to spend your entire life. Especially as a sheltered kid, my way of experiencing the world and understanding how it works was through video games and books and movies, and until my teenage years I was under the impression that the world works similarly to how the Sims 3 world works, and I was very disappointed to find out that that's not how the world works, because honestly, the Sims world, fun place to live in, I would love to be there. But it's hard to try to figure out how to just be somewhere or someone when there isn't any step-by-step tutorial for it, and you can't just make this shit up as you go. Every once in a while I have this realization that, oh shit, I'm like experiencing life in first person, and that's such an odd realization that I don't think people had to deal with until like 50 years ago, because you weren't constantly looking at yourself through a selfie camera. But it's hard, it's difficult to experience things in first person, if that makes sense. It's having this frequent realization that I have to actually go through this, you know? I can't skip this through a montage. And it's not gonna take just a few minutes, it's gonna take days or weeks or months. And I have to live through every single second of those. Be there and go through it. And you can't just do nothing, because then all that time is gonna be wasted, and at the same time you don't know what to do, you know? ADHD brain isn't gonna let you do anything the entire morning just because you have an appointment at 4 p.m. It's hard to cope with a constant existence in a world where all that you can see of other people is just parts and 15-second videos. And a way to cope with that is to try to look at the world as chapters and seasons and episodes, and with characters and protagonists and antagonists and side characters and all of those. But that's just not how this shit works, and it's really confusing. I don't know if saying that the existence of For You page and this hyper individualism that is shoved down your throat because it's the perfect tool for consumerism is the reason why so many people just never develop beyond a 4-year-old's understanding of the world is the right assessment to make. I'm just kind of hoping, for the sake of my own sanity, that majority of the people making these shitty takes are just kids, because I know that I was really radical when I was a teenager. I had this strong sense that everything is black and white, everything is either right 100% or wrong 100%, and there's no in between, until I reached like the age of 19 and realized that that's not the case. So I hope that's what's going on. I think this way of experiencing life as like a movie and seeing everyone as a character is also one of the contributors to always being afraid of being cringe or awkward or cheesy, because you can only really be cool if there's only a snippet of you existing. In a constant existence, you aren't gonna be cool, because by definition you're not gonna look cool when you're taking a shit, and you shouldn't, because you don't exist to be cool. I don't know why you should exist, but I know that the reason why isn't to look cool, and I think it takes a lot of enjoyment away. It stops you from doing a lot of things, experiencing a lot of things fully. Even with things that are put on a movie screen, even with something like hugging a friend or kissing the love of your life, it's not gonna look like what they show on TV. It's not gonna look that pretty. You're not gonna be that spaced away from each other. And it's hard to just accept that and experience that as it is, instead of trying to see it through a lens. I don't even know if that makes any sense. Also, I think being cool is one of those things that can only be found through a paradox. Like, I think you can only really be cool if you stop giving a fuck about being cool. If you just stop being afraid of looking awkward, you're gonna be less insecure and you're gonna be more comfortable doing things or trying new things. And that in itself can help you get cooler. And I know that romanticizing your life is a way of coping for a lot of people and enjoying life. And I get that that works, and if it's working out for you, then, you know, continue doing that. I don't think you should stop if it's working for you. But if it's something that you're constantly insecure about and it's constantly in your mind and it's causing you uncomfort, then you shouldn't try to force yourself into that. I think one thing that really helped me with changing my mentality on it was realizing that the majority of my bad days are also really good stories. So even though it's really shit right now, also that's gonna be really funny to tell your friends later on. Unless you don't have any friends, in which case maybe like it will still suck. But you know, at some point it's not gonna suck. Like at some point you can tell that story to someone and like laugh about it. But yeah, I think so many times things aren't for you just because you're not the main character, and you're not the main character because you're simply not a character. And you shouldn't try to be. You should try to be something better than that, because no matter how three-dimensional a character is, at the end of the day, they're just words on a paper put to a screen. At the end of the day, they are one-dimensional, no matter how hard we try to say otherwise. They are there to present something, and their story is gonna have a beginning and an end. And so will yours, technically, but you aren't exactly gonna remember the beginning, and you're probably not gonna be aware when the end is coming near you. So, you're not here to be cool, you're here to have a good time. So try to do that without being a dick, because sometimes people have like the worst ideas of having a good time. Don't go screaming at people in public and call that a good time. I mean, by a good time, I mean like take a walk in a park, touch grass, maybe smoke some. Yeah, I think that's it. So tell me what you think in the comments, and yeah, bye.